You're watching Enterprise Nation TV with O2 Business.
So first of all, do you want to tell me what is your business and how did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, well, we're MacRebur, the plastic road company. So we take waste plastics, we take those plastics, we pelletize them, they go into an asphalt mix, they replace part of the bitumen to create a stronger, longer lasting road. We came up with the idea really by just on a whim. It was actually my mother-in-law's fault. She lives just 3 miles away from where my wife and I live, and she would come down our road outside our house and complain about the potholes on the road. And one day she said to my wife and I, the potholes were so bad, she just had a giant bill from the garage for the suspension that she'd broken on her car, and she said she wasn't going to come and visit us anymore. I thought that was a marvellous idea, one of the best she's ever come up with, but my wife she was having none of it, so I had to do something about it. And I remembered something I'd seen back in India where they were taking waste plastics, bottles, bags, waste rubbish really from landfill sites, sticking it into a pothole, pouring petrol all over it, setting it alight, and all the stuff was melting down and kind of forming a seal in the hole. And I thought, that's a good idea, I'll do that when I get home. It just turns out that our local councils, they frown upon us setting light to anything that we stick in potholes, so I had to think again. I got together with a couple of mates and we just asked ourselves two questions. One was, how do we help solve the pothole problem, the problems that we've got with our roads and the poor quality of our roads? And on the other side, how can we help reduce what we call the plastic epidemic, the amount of plastic that's thrown into landfill sites or ends up in our oceans? And we sat really for 2 years in a pub, of course, best places to meet, and we just asked ourselves these questions: what could we do? Or how could we solve these two, or help solve these two world problems with one simple solution? And that's MacRebur was born, and we did a lot of testing and worked out a particular mix that goes into the asphalt that produces the results that we get.
At what point though did you know that it was going to be a business, from that idea to help your mother-in-law to the point where you went, actually maybe we could make this a trading company?
I was just trying to help my mother-in-law out really. She gives me grief. In truth, I didn't really. I had visions of it being a business, but before Voom, I didn't really imagine it would be the business that it is today. It was more coming from an ecological perspective rather than the finance perspective. So we hadn't worked out before we entered Voom even how we were going to monetize what it was that we had. We just knew that we had something. We got our first patent before Voom, and from there we just a lot of it. Don't tell Richard Branson this, but we were making it up as we were going through the competition, as they were asking us questions about how much our product is, or what turnover we're likely to get, or what profits we're looking at. We didn't know the answers. We were just kind of, right, let's just say something that sounds impressive and see where it goes. We're a long way from that now, but it evolved as we evolved with it, really.
So although you've mentioned a lot of them there, were those the key challenges? Just the usual startup things over money and marketing?
Yeah,
and patents?
You talk to a lot of people and they'll tell you, they'll get you to project ridiculous figures. £1 million to us, when we heard £1 million, one VC that we went to said, you've got to project into the billions. I didn't know that $1 billion was a real number. I thought it was a made-up number. So sort of getting our mindset around going from a standard day job, if you like, into talking about hundreds of millions of pounds was a real change for all of us involved. It was it changed our money map, but it also changed we call it dare to dream. It changed our ability to dare to dream even bigger than we thought. We started with this tiny thing that we dared to dream about. What if we could use up some waste plastic from Dumfriesshire, our local council, in our roads? That would be a good thing. But what if we went into Cumbria then? And what if we went into England and Scotland and the rest of the world? And it's kind of evolved and developed as our mindsets evolved and developed.
So how have you convinced then, because I guess it's the local councils you have to talk to, how have you convinced them because they're not traditionally the easiest people to deal with.
Yeah, we like to.
Even when it's a great idea. So how have you convinced them that this is what they should be doing?
Yeah, in truth, so we don't actually sell anything to the councils. We stimulate the growth through the councils, and we get them to ask for our product. Our product is an additive that goes into an asphalt mix. So the people buying it are the large and the small asphalt manufacturing plants. So they buy our product, they add it in, they save a heck of a lot of money because they replace part of the bitumen in the mix, and the councils win out because the roads last for so much longer, so they don't have to send their maintenance gangs. So our whole business model is run around a win-win. We wanted everyone to win out, and to minimise the risk from anyone involved, so that we could. We use local plastics for local roads. So where we've got a problem of waste plastics that people don't know what to do with, we solve that problem from a council perspective, and we solve the cost of the roads from an asphalt manufacturer's perspective. So it's a real win-win.
And what are your plans for the future? Where do you want to take this business?
Well, they're changing every day. It's non-stop. But we initially planned to get out to as many councils. I think we had on our list when we started 5 councils, and we said, well, if we can get into 5 councils, that's a success. And now we're talking about not just England, not just Scotland, not the rest of the UK. We're looking at work in Mexico and China and the States and all over Europe, where we have partners that are supporting us get our roads into various different countries. So it's world domination. Here we come.
Lovely. Just finally, what's your advice generally on growing a successful business, and perhaps on winning a competition, such as Voom?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's so important that people out there with a great idea, they prepare to fail. All right, I know this is going to sound contrary to most of what's read out there, but we didn't enter the competitions thinking we're going to win those competitions. In fact, we entered thinking we're going to get some really negative feedback. There's some negative comments, some reasons why it won't work, and it was almost being prepared for those comments to come to us that I think won it for us. It's I think the best advice is, if you've got an idea, if you've got some even just a concept, if you can enter something like Virgin Voom and be prepared for it not to work out, the worst thing that can happen is you get lots of publicity and marketing. That's not a bad thing. There's nothing going to happen. That's of any negative. You're going to get a lot of feedback, and that feedback, if you can use it to push your business forward, I think it's got to be. You've got to do it really. There's if you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, enter the competitions out there and start talking about your business ideas, get your brand out there, and start forming the ideas with other people, building a network.